Hi friends, welcome to Good Enough 444. I'm Emily and this is a space where we talk about healing, growth, and the messy, beautiful process of learning to believe that we are already enough just as we are. I share my own story of growing up in a polygamous cult, navigating family, faith, and freedom, and I connect it to stories we see played out on TLC's Sister Wives. These conversations aren't just about a TV show. They're about real people, real struggles, and the power of doing our personal healing work. So whether you are here because you are curious, you've walked a similar path, or you are looking for a reminder that you are not alone, you are in the right place. So let's dive in. Today, we're going back to Christine's book, Sister Wife, that we are going to navigate through chapter 4 and 5. On one of my last videos, I said, wait till we get to chapter 4. This one's a doozy. It's actually chapter 5 that's a doozy. We're going to start, though, with chapter 4. No girl wants a story like that. Oh, Christine is 18 at this point, and Cody is 4 years older than her. She says, Cody Brown, who is 4 years older than I, entered our church like a storm. I remember hearing stories about Cody a lot from my older sisters. Several of my older sisters had major crushes on Cody, and they talked about him a lot. Our house was the fun house. A lot of people came and hung out at our house. I have really, really pretty older sisters, and they had a really big friend group. So there was a lot of people that came and hung out with them. In this one, she says everybody in our church liked him immediately. Mary and Cody were referred to as Ma and Pa. In the AUB, and I think in the Mormon church also, the LDS church, they do what's called the Pioneer Trek. You get assigned to a family. If you're a sibling in the family, then you're assigned to that mom and dad, and you go on an actual pioneer adventure. You're pulling a handcart. Everyone wears bloomers under their clothes, and you wear dresses the whole time if you're a woman. I think it's a 3 or 4 day trek. All the stuff is loaded in the back of a handcart. You're literally pulling this cart or you're walking next to it, and all the camping gear is inside that cart. It's crazy. Cody and Mary were a mom and dad on that, and so they went by Ma and Pa after that. Christine talks about going at age 18 to community college, and then she moved into an apartment with 2 roommates. One of the roommates always wanted to know where she was always looking out for her. That situation didn't last long. It's really funny. She says something so funny in this. She says, the family tree in a polygamous church is more of a weeping willow than an oak. Everybody's related through a mom or a second mom. And damn, isn't that the truth? Everyone's related. So she talks in this chapter about her mom left her dad when she was 19. She also says before her mom left, she taught them about the Book of Mormon. And Captain Moroni served as an example of everything I wanted in a husband. He was brave, strong, and a leader. He held a banner of liberty and motivated his army to serve for justice. I loved that guy. This was the rock of my life had been built on. When she left, I realized it must all have been lies. She rebelled by becoming more religious. That's what she did when her mom left her dad. She was really angry at her mom, and so she dove even further into the church. I became more involved with the church, and I developed strong ideas about chastity. That would play out awkwardly on my wedding day. She says she knew Cody was a good man. She knew he was a good person. He wasn't afraid of anything, and he did what he thought was right rather than what the priesthood leaders thought he should do. As he helped me through my parents' divorce, I watched his relationship with Mary, and I thought he would be a good husband. So this is really interesting to me because, as she explains in this chapter, you know, what led up to those few years before she married Cody, she talks about the fact that she was friends with him for like 3 years. They would talk on the phone, just the two of them. So I don't know why I think that that is really interesting, but I do. I think that's really interesting that the two of them were friends. She says she thought about how he was with the youth group. She knew he would be a great dad. He was easy to fall in love with. But one day Cody called me and said, "I'm getting married again. It's Janelle." Wait, who? Janelle and I had been at some of the same parties, but we had never met. The news bummed me out, both because I thought Cody, Mary, and I were friends, and they hadn't told me. Though it's not unusual for these things to happen quickly in our community, and because I was crushing on Cody. But it didn't break my heart. If he took a third, it could be me. I didn't want to be a second wife because then I'd put a wedge in an established relationship. So when I was with my mom a couple weekends ago and we started reading the book and we got to that part and I said, "Oh my God, Mom, you were the wedge between Dad and Aunt D." And that was such a huge reality check for me because I have wondered why she was treated so poorly. I think that that was probably a big answer to that why. I think that my dad has always been such a bastard to her. And it is surprising to me, although my dad is really good at flipping one switch and becoming a completely different person. So whether he's really angry and then he just flips a switch and then he's really nice and really happy, or vice versa. And I find that to be really true for a lot of men that come out of the AUB. And I find it to be really true for a lot of men that you meet after you've gotten out of the AUB or any other high demand religion for that matter, and you haven't healed a lot of the abuse that's happened to you, either in your family or in that religious community. And it's really, really common to leave a group like that and to get out into the real world and to meet someone who is just as severely abusive as the priesthood leaders or a lot of the regular men in the AUB. And I want to say not all of the men in the AUB are like this, although I think that a majority of them are. And whether some of them are just straight up narcissists or some of them are completely overwhelmed with the amount of pressure and responsibility they have, I don't know. I think that sometimes it can be hard to determine that. I have done years of research on cluster B personality disorders, and I think there are so many men in the AUB who have a cluster B personality disorder. And that can be narcissism, that can be borderline personality disorder, that can be bipolar disorder, that can be like split personality disorder. There's several cluster B personality disorders. I specifically researched for the last 4 years narcissism, borderline personality disorder, and how those two overlap. I'm not an expert. I'm not a mental health professional in any way, shape, or form. I have been in therapy weekly, sometimes multiple appointments weekly for the last 6 years. And then again, specifically researching these cluster B personality types for the last 4 years. So back to the book. She says that in church, we learned we could be monogamous, but that it would be so much better to live plural marriage. It's an opportunity most people don't get. That's what we're told. And if you live it, you'll be exalted in heaven for living God's true intentions our whole lives. So they believe that this is God's original teachings, and this is the way that God plans for people to get to the celestial kingdom, which is the highest kingdom in heaven, where you will become your own god, you will become your own goddess, you will become a king, a queen. You'll have your own kingdoms where all of your family will live with you. So when you live plural marriage, you get to the celestial kingdom and be with God and Jesus for eternity. And so for Christine, that would include living with Cody and her sister wives for, we couldn't date. In polygamy, it's not cool to date a married man because he's married. Robin, they look at marriage as sacred. So even if you're a plural wife, each marriage that man has is a sacred marriage, okay? Each marriage is a covenant under God's law, and each one of those marriages is supposed to be highly valued and highly respected. It's this incredible gift. It's under the sanctity of God's laws. You don't want to disrespect sacred relationships by flirting with another woman. It's inappropriate. Cody would have had to get permission from my father and the church. I don't know how common that is just in everyday life. In other religions, it's very, very common in the AUB. In the AUB, it's pretty much standard. It's like doctrine. If you're gonna ask a woman to marry you, you go speak to her father before you ask her. You've got to go get permission from the dad in order to propose and be able to get married. So typically a woman lets her dad know she's interested and then he makes inquiries. But Cody and I had been hanging out as friends for about 3 years. When I was 21 and Cody was 25, said, of all the guys I know, I would just as soon marry you. He took that as a proposal. He talked with my dad, who adored Cody. Can you even imagine that of all the shit we've heard on Sister Wives, how funny is that? That is what Cody took as the proposal from Christine. I don't know. That just cracks me up. She says that if her dad would have arranged her marriage, that her dad would have picked Cody for her. Cody could be so charming. Yeah, most narcissists are charming. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not diagnosing Cody with narcissism. I'm just saying every narcissist that I know is incredibly charming. They know how to lay it on thick and they know how to get you to do what they want you to do. They're very good at just putting it out there in a way that makes you think that it could be your idea or in a way that makes you think you're so special. It's crazy. So one evening, Cody asked me to sit on my mom's couch. My sisters ran amok as he came in with the romantic proposal. I guess I should ask if you'd marry me. Be still my heart. Yes, I said, I'll marry you. He's such a jackass, and I love how Christine just throws humor into everything. I think it's awesome. She says, I expected something. Moonlight, snow, a ring, something. No girl wants a story like that, I told him. Soon after, on a pretty night, Cody looked at the moon. This is a better setting, he said, before asking me again if I would marry him. I smiled and said yes. He had a Claddagh ring for me, and I had a better story. On to chapter 5. Now, this chapter basically deserves its own video because, this one really, really gets to me. She says that she had one opportunity to feel like a bride. The dress. Her mom made the dress. She didn't want to appear anything other than modest. She didn't want to upset the other wives. She said even though her mom wasn't in the church anymore, her mom seemed excited for her to marry Cody. And probably because she knew Christine was going to stay in the church. So she said that she couldn't make eyes with her fiance. She couldn't hold Cody's hand or whisper in his ear over the cake. I had diminished the importance of intimacy and passion while embracing a burlap dress and a chaste first kiss in front of witnesses, my dad and my sister wives. She said her co-workers were the ones that pointed out to her that this was going to be a problem. You're going to go from your first kiss to sex all in the same day? How does that work? Cody and I would build our love over time, beginning with a friendship based in trust. She says she trusted that he wanted to marry her. So she really had a lot of trust in this man. And she said while she was planning the wedding, she would try to involve Cody, but he wasn't interested. So she planned a low-key dinner on a riverboat after a tiny ceremony. So we used to have this riverboat here in Murray, and it sat on I think it sat on the Jordan River. I just remember driving past it a lot when I was a kid and thinking it was so cool. Cody said, do whatever you want. I'm too busy. And they were getting married here, and then she was moving to Wyoming, where he lived in a 3-bedroom trailer with Janelle and Mary. So she was moving into that 3-bedroom trailer with Cody, Janelle, and Mary. And I just think, how in the world does anyone think that that's gonna end well? You've got 3 women in a trailer, you don't have a lot of money. It just seems like in all of these situations, and not just with the Brown family, although we see it just play out over our screens repeatedly, there are so many situations that they're just set up to fail. She says, I didn't do anything to let them know how thrilled I was to have them as sister wives. So now she's talking about starting her relationship with Mary and Janelle. And we are taught to believe that being strong enough to watch your husband marry another woman is why polygamy makes us better people. Anyone who can push down the jealousy that inevitably arises has done some work on herself. That is like the big thing in this religion. The more you suffer here, the bigger and better the kingdom in heaven is going to be. It's something, some doctrine that they believe that the more you suffer on this earth, the more you can overcome your jealousies and your insecurities and just any type of what they would look at as an affliction. They don't look at it as human nature. This is the way God designed us. They don't look at these things, any type of negative emotion, they see that as something being wrong with you or something being broken inside of you. And they look at it as a bad thing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a reason for these emotions. There's a reason that our body responds in certain ways. And those reasons are extensive, but most of the time it's to protect us. And in this religion, we need a lot of protecting. If you guys only knew the half of the crazy that goes on, you would be shocked. So they got married in her dad's living room. I would be marrying Cody for eternity. I would be joined with Mary and Janelle. I would be the 3rd wife, just as I had always dreamed, and I would be living God's principle. When I thought about kissing Cody, I felt all the butterflies a young woman who had never been kissed should feel. I felt nervous and in love. He was stressed out on our wedding day. I remember understanding he wasn't as excited to marry me as I was to marry him. Cody had a 1,000-yard stare. My God, I thought, what are we doing here? So then her grandpa married them. So that is really common when if it's a family member of, generally, so like my dad would have performed the ceremony for any of his kids that got married in the AUB. I think that if the couple has someone that is related on the council, then that is generally who would perform the ceremony for them. If not, then, I think they would go to the council and ask the council, and it would be whoever is available. So I think that the majority of those men are legally ordained to perform marriages. My father performed this ceremony both times that I married my ex-husband. We got married when I was 17, and then we got divorced when I was 20 and got back together within 6 months, and then got remarried a couple years later. And so my dad performed both of those ceremonies, and that was outside of the AUB, and yet he still performed the ceremonies for me, but they didn't like that to be common knowledge. And around that time, so the first wedding was in 99. That was a wedding. Then the second one wasn't a wedding. It was more of just like a little ceremony with family and friends. And we did that in a park at Murray Park. And that was in 2005. And so around that time, I think that there was a legal battle with I believe, gay couple that the baker didn't want to make a cake for this couple because they were a same-sex couple. And so that turned into a legal battle. And so my dad said, we are not going to be performing these ceremonies for anyone outside of our community because we don't want to be required to perform same-sex marriages. And then fast forward to when the debate for legal marriage between same-sex couples comes up, and it gets lumped in with polygamy. And so you've got anyone from the LGBTQ plus community advocating for these marriages, and you've got the polygamists there, and they are advocating along with them despite having no real acceptance of them. It was a way for them to get polygamy decriminalized. And it didn't necessarily get decriminalized. I think it got dropped from being a felony to about the same severity as a traffic ticket. So her grandpa marries them in his living room, and then he says, "You may now kiss the bride." And she says that Cody gave her the quickest little peck on the lips. Can you even imagine your whole life? You dream of your wedding day and you marry this man who you have fallen in love with. You assume he's in love with you. And then you may now kiss your bride. And I was so dead when I read this chapter. I just could not believe this all started out. Like, the amount of red flags in just this chapter alone is so sickening. And yet Christine had no idea how severely she was being abused. And when I say abused, I'm using abused not only because of the amount of abuse, also because neglect is a form of abuse. Neglect is a form of abuse. I don't think that a lot of people realize that. And yet it is literally a form of abuse. So the way that he neglects her and treats her is so sad. In my opinion, it is one of the most disgusting things to witness. Her grandpa says, "Wow, that was the quickest first kiss I think I've ever seen." How did her family not intervene at this point? And she even says, shouldn't there be a playbook or something? Listen, let's set you up for success because this is going to be rough. Like, there's all of these senior polygamous people, and they're not communicating. The lack of communication in this cult is absurd. Your communication is passive aggressiveness. That's literally the way that you're taught to communicate, is by being passive aggressive. It's sickening. She says she wanted pictures of her new husband and her, but would that be offensive? She's on the wedding day, guys, and she has no idea. She says she felt uncomfortable. Not flirty, not beautiful, certainly not sexy. She didn't feel like a bride. How sad is that? This is her wedding day. She understood that if she tossed her bouquet, it could cause friction. So she didn't even toss her bouquet on her wedding day. Mary and Janelle didn't seem happy. Dinner was quiet. They all sat at one table, no separate table for the bride and groom. Like, they know, like, you're getting into this situation knowing that your husband is taking another wife. No, it's just so frustrating. They knew, I thought. They knew what we'll be doing later tonight. Was that why they were upset? Was that why they seemed stressed? Because they knew that Cody and Christine would be intimate that night? She said they exchanged no excited, silly banter on our wedding night. Cody still seemed morose. They leave, they get in the car, and she asks him, "Where are we going to go?" And he says, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" She says she thought he would show that he had put some special thought into their honeymoon. The woman plans the wedding. The husband is supposed to plan the honeymoon. And that's his way of showing her how special she is, how much she means to him. "You didn't plan anything?" I asked, flabbergasted. "I thought the groom was supposed to plan the honeymoon." "No." "So where are we going to stay tonight?" "I don't know. I figured we just take it as it comes." I felt as if he'd punched me in the gut. "Have you not thought about marrying me at all?" He told me he had been too busy. He had 2 wives at home and Janelle was expecting a baby. Are you kidding me? He had 2 wives at home? That was his excuse? Having 2 wives at home meant that he had double the workforce. He had 2 women seeing to his every need, cooking, cleaning, taking care of him, running errands, scheduling appointments. Two of them. Like, these men don't do shit for themselves. So he uses the fact that he had 2 wives at home as an excuse, and yet that was just, again, double the workforce for this man. This is the part that kills me. This is the part that it makes me so sick. So I'm just going to read it from her words. She says, "In my original draft, I skipped from the evening remained awkward to the day after the wedding, without going into this in between. I had a couple of women who are close to me read this, including one who lives polygamy. And they both said, you have to tell it. But it's so painful looking back. I thought it would be the best night of my life. Magic. We stayed in a motel." Let me say that again. Not a hotel, a motel. He took her to a fucking motel, shaped like a castle, near Ogden, Utah. "You like fairy tales, right?" I remember Cody saying. "I don't care if you're the 16th wife. Come on." I knew Cody already had experience, so I thought I would be safe with him, that he would be careful not to hurt me. I wasn't completely clueless, and I trusted him. Again, she says that's twice now. I also thought, because he had some experience, that it would be, good. This man is 4 years older than her. He had a tryst in college. He's been married to Mary, whom he got to outright date, and fall in love with, right? So he's been married to Mary for 3 years, 4 years, and to Janelle, who had also been married prior to Cody to Mary's brother. How weird is that? Because they recycle wives in the AUB. She says it hurt like crazy and she cried. And he said, "I'm so sorry." No foreplay, no anything. My very first time after having my very first kiss at the altar, he was experienced. He should have known. Guys, come on now. He should have known. I'm sure he knew. I think that Cody thought, this is my opinion, I think that Cody thought he was gaining status in marrying one of the high up guys, right? Like, this is the prophet's granddaughter. She's an Allred. Allreds are the founders of the AUB. So yes, he totally thought she was polygamous royalty. And this was about him. And she has no idea. None. But he comes across as this charismatic, charming guy, creates this friendship with Christine that carries on for 3 years, then takes her on as his third wife, and then he just jams it in. Talk about just setting her up right out the gate. Like, he shows up at the door, not even happy. He barely gives her a kiss. And then he wrecks her on their wedding night. He has had at least 3 confirmed schmexual encounters, and yet he doesn't even take the time to get her ready for that moment. He's not even careful with her. The audacity of this man. She said she had been looking forward to this for so long. And she said she cried physical tears, actual real tears, because of the pain. She says she envisioned hand-holding, moonlight, gentle touches, feeling beautiful and adored. I imagined a loving acknowledgement of our eternal life together. So she goes into this thinking that he is a gentleman, thinking that he is a good man. And what a slap in the face. Again, just straight, like, this is just setting her up for exactly how the rest of their marriage is going to go. He doesn't love her. He doesn't care about her. He doesn't even give a shit if he hurts her. She is a tool to him. She is a fucking a step up towards, closer towards whatever certain level of heaven this man wants to obtain. Closer to the high ups in the church, right? She is a pawn in this man's game. She is currency to him. Women and children are a form of currency in this cult. And it is sick and wrong, and it needs to stop. And it's so unfortunate because the people that are in it, including, I think, a majority of the men, have no idea the way that they are being abused, nor do they completely understand the way that they continue to perpetuate the abuse. She says for the rest of their honeymoon, she was too sore for them to even try again. Did he even after that try to be softer or gentler or take his time with her to make it good for her at all. At one other point in the book, she talks about it was 2 years before she had an orgasm. 2 years. How many women go their entire lives without experiencing that? They are stuck in this repetitive cycle of abuse, and they have no idea. And the ridiculous amount of coercive control has them thinking that they chose this life. They signed up for this, when they have been coercively controlled by their parents, by the leadership, by the man that they marry. She says the day after the wedding, they go back to her mom's house so her mom can wash and store her dress. And her sister's there, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And Christine says, "I'm on my honeymoon." And the sister's like, "I know. What are you doing here? It's your honeymoon. Go, get out of here." So they left everything. Cody had to drop off his rented tux, and then they just hit random hotels and saw some neat things. She says it was a great car trip. Catch that? It was a great car trip. Not even a honeymoon, but a car trip. But she says, in her own words, "I didn't know anything else, and it was romantic enough for me. I figured things would get better." And that ends chapter 5. I am floored, you guys. I was fuming mad. When I read this chapter, I was so upset for her. It actually makes me physically sick to think about. You can't get any of that back. She can't ever go and have her first kiss again. She can't ever go and have that first experience ever again. And now, yes, she got out of the situation. Yes, she got to finally leave this dirtbag. Thank God she had enough fire in her soul to know when Cody said, "We won't have this type of relationship anymore." Thank God she had enough internal desire to want more, enough self-worth, self-esteem to walk away. And I personally believe, this is my opinion, had they not done Sister Wives, had they not signed on for this show with TLC, none of them would have left Cody. None of them. They would have stayed in that situation forever. And we have seen it repeatedly for our whole lives. Women get put out to pasture when a man is done with them. And sometimes these women are just used to advance these men higher up in the chain. They're climbing this ladder in the council with the prophet, with these men, to give themselves status. It's feeding their ego. And Cody says, it's all ego, baby. Like he's fucking proud of that. Are you kidding me? This sick ass dirtbag. Wow. He has just publicly shown how shitty he is and been a prime example for the majority of the men in the AUB, in the Kingstons, in the FLDS, anyone, including myself, that thinks the AUB is the better polygamous cult is delusional, crazy. The AUB is not any better. They don't have higher standards. They hide their shit better than the Kingstons or the FLDS or any other sick, twisted polygamous cult. I am so fired up about this, and I don't know if it's normal to be this upset reading this. I just think because they walk among the common people in the good state of Utah or wherever they're dispersed in between Canada and Mexico, they think that what they're doing is not wrong. They're hiding amongst the world. The AUB claims not to take underage brides. Roland Allred, Christine's grandpa, had 2 underage brides. He went to Mexico to hide because he was a polygamist, because his underage bride, her family, sent the police looking for him. None of this is good. This is not adults consenting to these situations. They are raising children from birth in these abusive, destructive ways. They are grooming girls, literally from birth, to accept this type of behavior. This man had other wives. He knew how things worked, and yet he just takes advantage of her. He's just doing his duty, and it has played out on our TV screens. We have watched this abuse, and we have watched this situation unravel. And in this man's madness, we have gotten to hear him admit some of these truths. This shit is not okay. And it is so frustrating to know that there are people in that community that I love. What can be done? It feels like there's no way to end it. It feels like there's no way to, like, you can't ever make it go away. This abuse will continue to happen, probably for generations upon generations. And there's nothing that can really be done to stop it until a woman says enough is enough and she gets out of the situation. It's sickening. And this dirtbag thinks it's funny to go on TV and to talk shit in the way that he does, to make his bonkers statements, to just be absurd. And we think this is okay. Women, we're stuck in these situations, and our children have no voice. They have no choice. They are raised in this. The majority of the people in the AUB that get divorced and then remarried, these men are just recycling through women. They're wife swapping continuously. I swear to you, I am going to come undone if Cody takes another wife. If TLC allows this man to perpetuate this abuse onto another woman, oh, I need to do a video on the trailer for season 20. And then I'm going to do a watch along and give commentary on each episode. And Lord help us all that I can maintain my composure, because this is so infuriating. And my heart hurts so much for Christine, for all of the wives. This dirtbag gets this hot little piece that's 10 years younger than he is, and then he just destroys his entire family, who has been being abused by him, allegedly, in my opinion, since the get-go. Right out the gate, his BS starts. And generally, that's how it is. And if they start at the beginning, then when they throw us scraps, then we're happy with those scraps. We don't know what we don't know. So we accept the abuse because we don't even know that we're being abused. And the majority of the time, we don't know or understand what could be better. What out there is better than this? So many women go their entire lives not even knowing what it feels like to be loved, what it feels like to be enough. They don't know that they're enough. They don't know that they're more than enough. Because these men in this patriarchal society where things are set up to only serve the men, we don't know. And what can we do? This is what we can do. We can speak out against it. We can talk about abuse. And we can share stories and examples, and hopefully other women will see it and they'll relate to it and they will say, I don't want to do this anymore. Thank God the Browns went on TLC, and I cannot even pretend to lie that my heart is so devastated for the Brown children. I cannot imagine what those kids have been through, not only living in the abuse and the crazy, but then all of it is filmed and put on national TV. So you're literally being indoctrinated from birth, abused, whether it's physically or schmexually or spiritually. All of the abuses that happen in these cults, in these closed societies that just breed gross, sick, and it's all in the dark. It's all hidden. And these men use religion and God's name to cover up their crimes. There's not any law or laws, essentially, protecting these women. Our government needs to step it the fuck up. This state of Utah that is run by the LDS church, all of these men from the LDS religion that run the state of Utah that hide away. They don't want to talk about polygamy. Are you kidding me? And in the book, she describes it perfectly. We are the bastard children of the LDS church, and they want us hidden away. They don't want to talk about polygamy. They're embarrassed by it. It's embarrassing to know that the founder of the religion, the founder of what they believe to be God's word, his everlasting word, their whole lives are built on and around this cult, this scam. They can't acknowledge what's wrong with it. They can't acknowledge that this doctrine came from Joseph Smith, whom they and talk about and praise almost more than God himself. They don't want to admit that it came from them. And the majority of the members have no idea. There is so much doctrine that has been pulled, that has been hidden away, and they have no idea that this shit came from something that they love so much. And so many of them are in the dark because this well-oiled machine, this multi-billion, this church is the richest business, essentially, in the world. Maybe that's taking it too far. I'm probably exaggerating there, but pretty damn close. And they're hiding how wealthy they are. They're taking 10% of all the income And then they're sitting up in their offices, in their cush lives, and they are ignoring the problem, the pandemic that's happening in their backyard. It's like these bastard children are living in a fucking shed in their backyard, but they didn't do it, so they ignore it. So many things have gone before the courts, before the legislature here, and nothing is done about it because it's embarrassing to these men, to these people, these businessmen, these politicians who are members of the LDS Church, and they are embarrassed that these things are happening. And so they ignore it, and they've ignored it for 200 years. 200 years this church has been going on, and polygamy has been happening in their backyard, and they ignore it, and it is wrong, and it's sickening. And anyone who has respect for people that can hide away truths about this type of abuse is just as guilty, in my opinion, as the abusers themselves. These men need to learn, and they need to get their shit together. And the state of Utah and even the LDS Church needs to step in and do something, because they are benefiting financially and in other ways, while thousands and thousands of women and children are being abused all day, every day. And for 15 years, we have watched this abuse play out on our TVs, and we have laughed and joked and talked shit about it. And it's not funny. It's disgusting. And it needs to stop. And the only way for it to stop is to acknowledge, first of all, that it's happening. And second of all, to call out the abuse where it's abuse. And third, talk about it. It needs to be talked about. And fourth, action needs to be taken. It needs to be openly and widely discussed so that there is a way for people to leave and not feel like they are culpable of these things that the men have been participating in, or these higher up leaders. You guys, my dad is closing off the AUB in the same way Warren Jeffs closed off the FLDS. When everything is done in secrecy, it allows for even more abuse to happen. It allows for even more trauma and psychological damage and things that you can't ever reverse, things you can't ever get back. It is disgusting to watch the way my father has been treating my mother, and not even just my mother, even the other wives. The other wives that I don't even like, I look at the way my father abuses them, and because I have learned about abuse for the last 6 years, I can see the way that they're being abused. They have no idea. He knows, and he doesn't care because he's getting his needs met. He's getting what he wants. So it doesn't matter to him. He's going to do what he wants, take what he wants, say what he wants, and nobody in law enforcement or in the government or in the LDS church is going to intervene. Nobody's going to do a thing about it until there is an outcry of victims, survivors saying enough is enough. We won't stand by anymore and say live and let live. These are consenting adults. So let it be okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Sorry that I went so fiery with all of that. I am mind blown with all of it. That chapter has me so riled up because it is so toxic and it's so wrong. And the people that could do anything about this sit back and pretend like there isn't even an issue. Because if it doesn't affect them directly, why should they care? Enough is enough. Something has to change. And there are certain people who are pounding the pavement, doing what they can to help people that have come out of these polygamist organizations. Where are the people that are pounding down the door to the people that can actually do something to change these situations? I've only been out for 2 years and I'm not even out. I'm still recovering. I'm still learning how to be a single mom and take care of 3 adult daughters, 1 adult stepson, 2 minor children at home, and heal myself to the best of my ability while I take care of my children. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to do commentary on the sister wives and compare it to the way I grew up so that I can help to bring some awareness to this. And maybe someday, some of what I do will lead to some type of change. I hope and pray that that is the case. And in the meantime, while I do that, I'm going to call out these things that I see and share my opinion. Again, this is my opinion, nobody else's. This is my opinion. Hopefully, I can help to shed some light on this. That is my goal. That is why I started doing interviews back in 2021. It is why I went on the platform I went on, because I knew that platform could get the word out in a bigger, broader, vaster expanse. So I ask any of you that are watching my video, if you've made it this far, what can you do? What can you do to make some changes for the innocent, for the people that do not have the ability to make changes for themselves, for the victims of this type of abuse? What can you do? Can you help support holding out help? Can you bring awareness to the issue? If not this issue, what can you do? What is in your life that you can support or bring awareness to? If it's this issue specifically, if you can help with this issue specifically, please, please do what you can to help. Holding out help is drowning in clients. They are drowning. There are so many people that have fled these communities with nothing. And that holding out help is doing everything that they can to help them and support them and guide them. And you guys, I'm not kidding when I say I would not have survived these last 2 years without holding out help. I would not have made it through. They have been my backbone, my crutch, the things that they have provided to me. Most important is the forms of therapy that they have provided to me once a week, every week, for 2 years, sometimes twice a week. I have gone into holding out help and I have gotten neurofeedback therapy. Those neurofeedback therapy sessions, people pay out of pocket $150 to $200 a session. And without that, I think I probably would have gone crazy. And anyone that knows me knows I'm crazy. I'm saying like over the edge crazy. I cannot imagine where I would be without them. And I know that they are overwhelmed. But they don't care. They just keep doing it. They keep providing whatever they can. The therapy that they provide is invaluable. You cannot put a price tag on that. The services that they offer. And there are people that are just amazing. I think it was like the founder of Skull Candy that donated a home to them. This beautiful home where they have been able to set up their offices and reside. The business, I'm at a loss of words, it's not a business, but the organization, Holding Out Help isn't a business, it's an organization that helps people that are either in polygamy still or have left polygamy with anything and everything that they can. And Tanya Toole, the founder of Holding Out Help, you guys, this woman blows my mind. She is phenomenal. And she just, without any type of judgment or prejudice or anything, she just loves on us. And she has been fighting behind the scenes to get help and support and resources to polygamists from every single community of polygamy. This woman has been pounding the pavement hardcore to support us in healing, in our physical needs, our mental health needs, our emotional needs, in every aspect. There's no judgment, there's no requirements, there's no pressure to do anything at all. There's nothing that she asks for in return. She is a damn saint. I cannot imagine life without her. And anyone that knows her knows exactly what I'm talking about. And the therapists there and the caseworkers. These people are amazing. They're amazing. They just blow my mind. If there's anything you can do to help support this cause, this issue, Holding Out Help, please, guys, I'm begging you, do whatever you can do. And if it's not this issue, find something, some way to give back. Some way, any way that you yourself can, whether it's sharing the information about Holding Out Help, whether it's sharing this video, whether it's donating monetarily, whether it's $1, $5, $500, 5,000, 5,000,000, I don't know, whatever you can do, please do it. There's so many of us that rely on the support of strangers, people we know nothing about, people that I do not know have lifted me up higher than damn near anybody that I do know in the last 2 years of my life. And it has blown my mind. because I was raised to believe that the outside world is scary and dark and dangerous. And yet, the outside world is the reason that I'm still here today. And I'm so grateful for that. So grateful for that. So, with all of that said, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks in advance. If there's something that you do that helps support the cause that I'm talking about, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful for all of those that have donated, whether it's monetary donations, physical donations, time donations. I am eternally grateful for the generational chains that have been broken so my daughters never have to live this type of abuse. They never have to walk these roads. They all will have healing to do, all of them. And yet, I am so grateful that they never have to know what life was like living in a polygamous cult, living in a closed society, living in a high demand religion. They never will have to know that. And the majority of that is because of the kindness of strangers. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate it more than I could ever put into words. Have a good night, you guys.